Okay, this is the evaluation report on William Billy Blanks. His date of birth is January 9th, 2005, and he's 12 years old and 11 months, soon to be 13 years of age. And his grade is 6 years, sixth grade in 4 months. The date of evaluations for Billy are 10/2/17 and 11/27/17. I am the examiner, Thomas Maciso, and of course we're here at Brady Middle School. Before we begin, any questions? Okay. The reason for the referral: Billy has been referred by the language arts classroom teacher for possible cognitive and academic functioning. We wanted to take a look because he's been struggling with reading fluency, word recognition, and sounding out letters and syllables. This has caused Billy, according to his classroom teacher, to fall behind in his in-class work as well as his homework. His language arts teacher mentioned that he often guesses and substitutes incorrect words for what's written on the passage or in the passage. So the suspected area of disability is, again, cognitive and academic functioning, basically struggle with fluency. Some questions that we want answered. What are Billy's strengths in fluency and comprehension? Why does Billy struggle with reading? And what teaching strategies and modifications can be made for Billy to be successful? Some other relevant factors that we felt were important is Billy has had some severe family hardships. His dad has been hospitalized, and his parents has been recently divorced within the past year. Currently, he splits his time between his mother and his father's home. Billy's a 12-year-old, again, soon to be a 13-year-old boy who lives in Arundel, Maine, with his mother primarily as a primary caregiver. But he also spends considerable amount of time with his dad, who lives in Kennebunk, Maine. As mentioned, his parents divorced 18 months ago, and the split has not been amicable. They often disagree about how to raise Billy. In addition, Billy's father has been very sick, causing him to worry about his dad's health. Billy himself has not really had any major childhood illnesses or health difficulties. There are no known allergies, and his vision and hearing exams have come back within the normal ranges. Currently, Billy is not prescribed any medication, and the records show no evidence of abuse. In school, he has recently shown signs of becoming more introverted and withdrawn from his classmates. During observations, with his classroom teacher, they've picked up on that. This is especially true around children that he doesn't know very well. Once Billy is around people that he's more familiar with, he does become slightly more outgoing and personable. Billy has participated in the RTI classroom for reading in 4th and 5th grade. But to this point in 6th grade, early in the year, he really hasn't been to too many RTI classes due to him missing over 20 days of school so far this year. A couple of his teachers are concerned that this excessive tardiness could be a major factor in his fluency difficulties. And really, we would like for him to not fall any further behind than he is. This school year, Billy has mispronounced or read incorrect words that really aren't on the page, but just are replacement words with more frequency. Billy is well behaved and polite in school. However, as mentioned previously, he is more withdrawn than he has been in the past. He does demonstrate better comprehension skills when with auditory comprehension, when he has read a story or when he is watching a video or a film, he does have excellent recall. So to measure Billy's strengths in fluency and comprehension, I'll use the Gray Oral Reading Test, version 5. This is called the GORT test for short. A little bit about the GORT test. It's an individually administered measure of oral reading ability. This test can help pinpoint particular strengths, note any differences between rate and accuracy, or between fluency and comprehension scores. In addition, the use of the miscue analysis procedure can help select intervention strategies that will improve oral reading success. For Billy, I wanted to address both his reading rate and accuracy, which those two combined make the fluency. Any questions on that? So when you check the reading rate, the speed of the passage reading, and the accuracy, you get the fluency. And of course, the comprehension is how well he understands. I will ask him comprehension questions from the passages he reads, and I will also read to him and have him answer questions to check his auditory comprehension. To measure what modifications that can be made for Billy in reading, I will observe him in the classroom, and I'll use a diagnostic checklist of oral reading and then try to work with him one-on-one for some reading comprehension. So some test session observations. Billy was observed in the RTI classroom. The first time was October 2nd, 2017. This was a Monday. It was the first block of the day, and with the earlier start time of the middle school compared to the previous elementary school start time, I wanted to observe how well he was adjusted to this. The classroom had 6 children in the RTI classroom, with 3 specialists working with the students. Billy came into the room with a slow gait, not very enthusiastic at all. I observed him to be yawning, displaying low energy throughout this period of instruction. Once the lesson from the RTI teacher was taught, I worked with him a little bit one-on-one for about 10 minutes and had him read out loud to me. During that session, he struggled with his rate and word attack skills. His accuracy and speed in reading was well below his grade level. I observed him to be well below that. The lead RTI teacher then took the 6 students for a walk down to the fitness room. There they had the choice of using a stationary bike, a treadmill, or machine-based weights for about 15 minutes. This seemed to work wonders. Upon returning back to the classroom, I chose a passage for him to read that was about the outdoors and settlers from the mid-1800s heading out to the western United States. I found Billy much more engaged and interested and alert during this time. But he still struggled somewhat with sight word recognition, fluency, and phonic awareness. With both of these passages, he seemed to have difficulty with answering basic comprehensive questions. Finally, I read a passage to him to test his oral or auditory comprehension. I read a passage from one of his favorite books that I that I realized that he liked, Hatchet. This is a story about a boy having to learn to live out in the wild after the small plane that he was in crashes after the pilot has a heart attack and dies. The story concentrates on how this young teenage boy changes and adapts and is able to survive out in the wilderness. After reading the passage to Billy, I asked him open-ended comprehension questions, and he performed much better with the comprehension, basically scoring double than what he did before. Billy, although polite and willing to read earlier in the observation, I found him not to be fully focused and ready to work. Once we returned back from the fitness room and read books that he was more interested in, I found his demeanor greatly improved. He was actually very excited about Hatchet and was eager to answer questions. So for test results, we used the GORT test, as I said, version 5, the latest version. He was in the standard score range of 75 to 81. That puts him in the 7th percentile with a confidence interval of plus or minus 3 points. So given a 68% confidence interval, Billy earned a standard score of 75 to 81 as mentioned, and this score placed him in the poor range when compared with the same age in the normative sample, students around his same age. The normative score for this composite is called the Oral Reading Index, or ORI, and is a standard score for this test. The ORI is obtained by combining the fluency and the comprehension scores. Billy obtained an ORI of 70 to 79. Then I also tested him in the classroom for the criterion base and the test results. This assessment was in the RTI classroom. He read out loud the first 2 passages, and I read the last one to him. Following the readings, he answered open-ended comprehension questions. And what I noticed were very similar results. For the first 2 passages that he read, he had difficulty with the comprehension, difficulty with the fluency. But the third one that I read to him, he was much more successful with the comprehension questions. So Billy is a young man who is distracted and lacks focus. In addition, his transition to the middle school has been very difficult with the many changes in his home life and with his father's illness. I would recommend that he see a school counselor and include that information so the IEP team, or the team that's going to decide if he is going to qualify for special services, can evaluate and determine that he gets the best education at the appropriate level. So what are Billy's strengths in fluency and comprehension? His strength is his willingness to keep trying to read, and his oral comprehension, as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, his oral comprehension and his auditory comprehension is excellent. Why does Billy struggle with reading? Billy struggles with phonemic awareness, word recognition, and overall fluency. His word attack skills are lacking. He has had a lot of changes in his life over the past couple of years. The late elementary school years are vital to the success of students if they are going to be successful readers. Typically, this is where you stop reading to learn, and instead you move into learning to read. In addition, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Basically, you go from learning to read to reading to learn. In addition, Billy has missed many school days and has not been to any summer or remedial school programs to catch up. So what teaching strategies and modifications can be made for Billy to be successful? Well, every effort must be made for him to attend school as regularly as possible. Attending school on a regular basis will not only help him academically, but also increase his chances of developing friendships, which are very important to his learning as well. Billy has expressed an interest in joining the middle school band and learning how to play drums. We should encourage him in that. In addition, reading logs with books that Billy enjoys and are at his level would be very helpful. We also could try to find an older high school student that would be willing to volunteer time one-on-one to work with Billy and read with him to help him with his fluency. I recommend more hours per week in the RTI classroom, both in small reading groups and one-on-one training sessions. So that concludes the evaluation report on Billy. I'm welcome to any questions and more than willing to have a discussion. Thank you.